Solving equations by cross-multiplying, part 1. In today's lesson, students will solve equations with division using cross-multiplying. Using what? Very good. So now that you're familiar solving equations with multiplication, okay, today we're going to learn how to start to solve equations with division. Okay, so when solving equations with division, okay, and again, division is going to look like this. For example, if you see an equation that says x divided by 8 equals -3, this is a fraction bar. It's a what? A fraction bar, which means divided by, okay? So this is what they're going to look like. They're going to have a fraction equaling a whole number, okay? The first thing you're going to do, first, you're going to put a 1, the number 1, under the whole number, okay? Now remember, integers, whole numbers, and their opposites, don't forget the 0. Please don't forget the 0. Remember that? Okay, so if you take a look at this equation right here, what's the whole number? Is it x divided by 8 or is it -3? The whole number is -3, right? That's a whole number. There's no fraction bar underneath it. You can make any whole number a fraction by putting it under the number, or by putting 1 under the number, okay? By dividing it by 1. By doing what? Dividing it by 1, okay? So, first you would have to put 1 under the whole number, or divide the number by 1. So, what you're going to do, under this -3, you're going to put divided by 1, okay? So put 1 underneath it. Now that's a fraction. Now that says -3 divided by 1. Or 3, -3 over 1. Okay, so that would be step 1. Now in order to figure this out, because now this is saying what number divided by 8 gives you -3. Okay, that's what it's saying. What number divided by 8 gives you -3? Well, if you didn't know in your head what that is, okay, you're going to do the opposite of division. What's the opposite of division? The opposite of division is multiplication. That's right, it's multiplication. So how do you use multiplication to solve this? Well, we call it cross-multiplying. So you're going to cross-multiply. Okay? When you cross-multiply, it kind of looks like a butterfly. Okay? Looks like 2 wings of a butterfly. So you're going to start on the left because you typically always start on the left. And you're going to put a wing of a butterfly like this. You're going to go down. Okay? You're going to say, all right, well, what is x times 1? X times 1. All right, so here's where we need to remember that if you have any number and you multiply it by 1, for example, what is 2 times 1? What's 2 times 1? 2 times 1 is 2. Does 2 equal 2? Are they the same? Are they the same? 2 equals 2, right? Okay. What's -3 times 1? What's -3 times 1? Any number times 1 is itself. It's -3, right? So we call this the identity property of multiplication, identity property of 1, okay? So then, if I take x, okay, and then I'm going to multiply with a dot, and I multiply it by 1, what do you think that is? X times 1. Any number times 1 is itself. So x times 1 is what? It's not 1. It's not 1. What is it? It's x. That's right. It's x. Okay? So simply, X times 1, you're going to write, you know what? That's X. So you're going to write X equals. All right. Now we're going to cross multiply the other wing of the butterfly. So we're going to say, what is 8 times negative 3? And who's going to help us? Who is this? This is Bob. He's going to say, look, if you have a positive 8 and a negative 3, a positive times a negative is negative. That's right. So circle that I. Okay. A positive times a negative is negative. So our answer will be negative. So we just have to know what is 8 times negative 3. Okay. What's 8 times 3? 8, 16, 24, right? So this is negative 24. All right, very good. So number 1 is just like the example that we saw, and it says x divided by negative 4 equals 6. So this is asking you what number divided by negative 4 would give you a positive 6. So remember, the first thing you want to do is you want to make both of these sides of the equations fractions. This is already a fraction because it has a fraction bar. How do you make 6 a fraction? What do? What do you put under it? The number 1. Okay, so if you make this 6 over 1, now that's a fraction. It says 6 divided by 1. So when you have a fraction equaling a fraction, you call those equal proportions, okay? When you have this situation, now you have 2 fractions. What can you do? What's this called? What are you going to do? You're going to cross multiply. All right. So let's cross multiply. First, you're going to do x times 1. So this is very simple, because any number times 1 is itself. So what is x times 1? What are you left with? What is it? It's x. Very good. Okay. Now we're going to cross multiply, do the other wing of the butterfly. Here we go. Boom. There's your butterfly. So cute. All right. So what is positive 6 times a negative 4? Okay, remember that a positive times a negative, okay, positive 6 times a negative 4 is what? It's negative. So it's negative. Tell me, what is 6 times 4? 6, 12, 18, 24. Boom. There you go. So this answer is also negative 24. Put a box around that. Now I am going to make you check these. I will. So, okay. So write the original equation, which is x divided by a negative 4 equals 6. So now you're going to ask yourself, we're going to put negative 24 in the place of x. We're going to say, is negative 24 divided by negative 4, does that give you a positive 6? What is negative 24 divided by 4? Negative divided by negative is positive, right? And it's positive 6. So in this situation, 6 equals 6. That is a true statement. So go ahead and write that down. Okay, so let's look at a new example. This says x divided by a negative 7 equals positive 6. So it's asking what number divided by negative 7 gives you a positive 6. Okay, so what's different about this equation? Now remember, before we had our answers were negative. Now we're dividing by a negative integer. All right, first step, okay, before you can cross multiply, what do you have to do? What do you have to do to that 6? That's a whole number. What do you have to do? You have to make it a fraction. Make it a what? Make it a fraction. And how do you do that? By putting what number under it? Putting it under the number, or put it over the number what? Over the number 1. That's right. Okay. So 1 is now under it. Now it's a fraction. It says 6 divided by 1. Now what can you do to solve this equation? You remember, you think, okay, what's the opposite of division? It is multiplication. You're going to do what? Cross multiply. Say it. Cross multiply. Okay, so you start with x times 1. Okay, any number times 1 is itself. Okay, so x times 1 is going to be, what's x times 1? X times 1 is x. That's right. So x times 1 is x. Okay, now we're going to do the other wing of the butterfly. Here we go. We have a -7 times a -6. Okay, there's your butterfly. So -7 times a +6. Okay, so Bob says a -7 times +6 is negative. That's right. Okay. So our answer is going to be negative. So now we need to know what is 7 times 6. Ooh, this is my favorite one. 7 times 6 is 7, 14, 21, 28. Yee-haw! 35, 42. It's 42. But it's -42. So put a box around that. Okay, -42. So let's check to see if we are right. So if we write the original equation, it says x divided by a -7 gives you a +6. So putting 42 in the place of x, substitution. Remember what substitution is? Say, substitution! Putting a number in the place of a letter. Okay, we're going to put -42 in the place of x. So we're going to say, okay, is -42 divided by -7, does that give you a +6? Well, we know that a -42 divided by a negative divided by negative is positive, and 42 divided by 7, okay, is 6. So it's going to be +6 equals a +6. Okay, very good. Write that down. Now let's look at our last example. It says, read it with me. Read it with me. It says, x divided by -6 equals -8. It's asking you what number, if you divide it by -6, would give you a -48. Okay, so what is always the first step when you see a division? Okay, this is a fraction. So you say, okay, this side of the equation is a fraction. Is this side a fraction? Is that a fraction, -8? Is it? No. How do you make -8 a fraction? What do you do? Put it over the number what? Over the number 1, okay? So if I say over the number 1, I'm saying put a 1 under it. Make sense? It's over the number 1, and 1 is under -8. Yes? Okay. So now that you have two equal fractions, you can do what? What is this? What is this called? It's called cross multiply. Say it. Cross multiply. So we're going to multiply first x times 1. Any number times 1 is itself. So what is x times 1? It is x. Very easy, right? X times 1. Now we're going to multiply some integers. Okay, so we have a -6 times a -8. So remember that a negative times a negative is positive. So put a positive, circle that. Okay. All right. So we know the answer is going to be positive, right? So what is 6 times 8? Remember, when 6 and 8 walk through the gate, out comes 48. What did I say? When 6 and 8 walk through the gate, out comes 48. Or 6 times 8 is 48. Okay? Okay, 6 times 8 is 48, but -6 times -8 is also positive 48. Okay, here we go. So now we're going to check our work. We're going to say, what's the original equation? It's x divided by 6 equals -8. All right, so then we're going to substitute -48 in the place of x. So -48 divided by -6. Is that, oh, sorry, it's positive 48. Gotcha. Positive 48 divided by -6, is that -8, okay? So remember, a positive divided by a negative. What is positive divided by negative? Positive divided by negative is negative, okay? And 48 divided by 6, 48 divided by 6, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48. So how many tallies do I have? I have 8. So in fact, -8 does equal -8. So we know we solved this equation correctly. Go ahead and get that down.